Stop scrolling. What just happened between Ottawa and Silicon Valley is not a news story. It is a warning. Canada just told Google, Meta, Amazon, and Microsoft, pay us, follow our rules, or get out. Not a proposal, not a request, a law, signed, done, effective immediately. Donald Trump is furious. He called it economic warfare. He threatened to destroy Canada's economy. He said Canada is behaving like China. But here is what Trump does not want you to know. The markets didn't believe him. Alphabet dropped 4.2%. Meta fell 3.8%. And Shopify, Canada's own tech giant, surged 11% in a single session. The money is not scared of Carney. The money is scared of Trump's reaction. I'm Edward from Global by Entry News, and in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what Canada just did, why Silicon Valley is in full panic mode, and why this one move could permanently change the internet you use every single day. Don't blink. This story moves fast. Moves. For decades, American tech giants treated Canada like a suburb. They moved data north, harvested Canadian users, dominated Canadian markets, and paid almost nothing for it. Google, Meta, Amazon, Microsoft. They built server farms, ad networks, and cloud systems across Canada as if the country belonged to them. As of this morning, that era is over. Prime Minister Mark Carney signed the most aggressive digital sovereignty package any Western democracy has ever produced. And the CEOs in Silicon Valley are absolutely losing their minds. It started with a provocation. Last Tuesday, President Trump signed an executive order demanding that all allied nations give American tech companies complete, unimpeded digital market access or face a 30% tariff on any Canadian software, cloud service, or digital export entering the U.S. The message was simple: open your doors or we slam ours. The expectation inside the White House was that Canada would fold in 12 hours. Send a deputy minister, offer some face-saving concessions. Trump posts a win on Truth Social before dinner. That is not what happened. Carney called an emergency session of his inner cabinet. Not politicians, economists, former central bankers, people who think in basis points and systemic risk. They met for 9 hours, and when Carney walked out, he did not look worried. He looked like a man who had just finished building something. He walked to the podium and unveiled the Canadian Digital Sovereignty Act. Here's what it does. First, every foreign tech company operating in Canada with revenue over $500 million must now store all Canadian user data on Canadian soil in Canadian-owned facilities. Second, a new 12% digital services levy on all advertising revenue generated from Canadian users. Every ad dollar earned from a Canadian eyeball is now taxed at the source. Google, Meta, TikTok, Amazon, all of them. Third, and this is the one that made Silicon Valley's blood run cold, any AI model trained on Canadian user data must be licensed through a new federal AI registry. If you scraped Canadian data to build your AI, you now owe Canada a licensing fee, retroactively. The room went silent. Then the internet exploded. Trump fired back immediately. He called Carney a digital communist, threatened to ban Canadian tech companies from American cloud infrastructure, said no Canadian app would ever touch an American server again. But while Trump was typing in all caps, the markets told a completely different story. Alphabet dropped 4.2% in after-hours trading. Meta fell 3.8%. Amazon Web Services futures cratered. And Shopify surged 11% on the Toronto Stock Exchange. The money was not running from Carney. The money was running toward him. Here is why this matters. American tech companies do not just operate in Canada. They are deeply entangled in Canada. AWS hosts roughly 40% of Canada's government cloud infrastructure. Microsoft runs the backend for healthcare systems in 3 provinces. Google processes more Canadian search data than any domestic alternative. When Carney says store everything on Canadian soil, He is not asking them to move a few servers. He is asking them to rebuild from the ground up. A Bank of Canada internal briefing that leaked this week puts the compliance cost at $18 billion over 3 years. That is not a tariff. That is a toll booth on the entire digital economy, and they cannot just walk away. If Google pulls out of Canada, it loses 38 million users and a $9 billion annual advertising market. If AWS leaves, the Canadian government's own systems go dark. They are trapped, and Carney knows it. Now let us talk about the AI licensing bombshell, because this is the one nobody saw coming. For 5 years, every major American AI company scraped the open internet to train their models. Reddit posts, news articles, government documents, social media, including enormous amounts of Canadian data. They never asked, they never paid, they just took it. Carney's new AI registry says, if you used Canadian data to build your product, you owe Canada a royalty. The framework is modeled on natural resource law, the same way Canada charges mining companies for extracting nickel from the ground. It is now charging AI companies for extracting data from Canadian users. Early estimates: OpenAI alone could owe $2.3 billion in retroactive fees. Google's Gemini, potentially $4 billion. Meta's Llama, the number has not been calculated yet, but insiders say it is staggering. Trump says this violates international trade law. His lawyers are already drafting challenges. But here is the problem. There is no settled international law on AI data rights. It is a gray zone. And Carney, the former central banker who helped write modern financial regulations, knows exactly how to operate in gray zones. He is not breaking the rules. He is writing new ones before anyone else can. And here is the move nobody in Washington is talking about yet. Within 6 hours of Carney's announcement, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen called Canada's framework a bold and necessary step toward digital sovereignty. Sources in Brussels say the EU is now fast-tracking its own AI licensing regime modeled directly on Canada's. The UK is reportedly drafting similar legislation. Japan held an emergency economic briefing specifically about the Canadian model. Do you see what is happening? Carney is not just protecting Canada, he is building a global coalition, he is creating an international standard, and he is doing it while Trump is still arguing about whether Canadian data is even worth anything. Trump is playing whack-a-mole, Carney is building an alliance. So why did Carney pick this fight right now? Because Trump handed him the perfect weapon. When Trump issued that executive order demanding total digital market access, he gave Carney exactly what every leader needs to justify a radical move. A villain. Carney did not have to explain why Canada needs digital sovereignty. Trump explained it for him. Trump essentially said, "We want full control of your digital economy." And Carney said, "Thank you for proving my point." This is political jujitsu at its finest. Carney is using Trump's own aggression as the justification for the most protectionist digital policy in Western history. And domestically, it is working. Carney's approval rating jumped 9 points overnight. In Canadian politics, that is an earthquake. Conservatives, Liberals, NDP, all rallying behind the same idea. Even Pierre Poilievre, the opposition leader who has attacked Carney on everything for 2 years, went quiet. His office issued one line, "We support protecting Canadian digital sovereignty." Trump did not just give Carney a policy win, he gave him a political shield. Now, what can Trump actually do? He has 3 levers. The first, the 30% digital tariff. He can pull it tomorrow. But Canada's digital exports to the US are about $12 billion a year. America's digital exports to Canada, over $48 billion. A digital trade war hurts the US 4 times more than it hurts Canada. The math simply does not work in Trump's favor. The second lever, cut Canada off from U.S. cloud infrastructure entirely, but that would also cut off every American company operating in Canada, every U.S. bank with a Canadian branch, every U.S. manufacturer with a Canadian supply chain. You cannot sever a digital economy without severing your own. The third lever, the nuclear option. Kick Canada out of Five Eyes, the global intelligence sharing alliance. Trump has reportedly floated this in private, but the Pentagon and the NSA are horrified. Canada monitors the Arctic. Canada shares critical signals intelligence. Removing Canada from Five Eyes would be like blinding yourself in one eye to win an argument about sunglasses. Trump has leverage, but every lever he pulls hurts him as much as it hurts Carney. And Carney calculated this. He literally ran stress tests on global banking systems for a living. He knows exactly how much pain each side can absorb. And he is determined that Canada can hold longer than Trump can afford to wait. This is asymmetric warfare. Canada cannot outspend America. It cannot outmuscle America. But Carney is not trying to win a war. He is trying to make the war too expensive to fight. Now here is why this matters to you, even if you have never thought about Canadian tech policy in your life. For 25 years, the global internet has been an American product. American companies built it. American rules governed it. American servers stored the data. That era is ending. What Carney just proved is that a Western democracy, not China, not Russia, a liberal Western democracy, can assert sovereign control over its digital economy without shutting down the internet, without building a great firewall, without becoming authoritarian. He is offering a third path, not the American model of corporate control, not the Chinese model of state control, a middle path where nations own their data and keep the internet open. And the world is watching. If Canada pulls this off, every mid-sized democracy on Earth will copy it. Australia, South Korea, Brazil, India, the entire global South. The American tech empire was not brought down by a rival superpower. It was brought down by a Canadian with a spreadsheet. That is the story nobody in Washington wants to tell. That is the story tech lobbyists are spending millions to suppress. But a 380-point NASDAQ drop does not lie. The digital world order is fracturing, and Canada just swung the hammer. So where does this go from here? 3 scenarios. Scenario 1, American tech companies quietly comply. They build Canadian data centers, pay the levy, register their AI models, absorb the cost. Because losing 38 million wealthy consumers hurts more than paying a tax. This is the most likely long-term outcome. Companies follow money, not flags. Scenario 2, the retaliation spiral. Trump imposes tariffs, Carney escalates. The EU joins Canada. The US is suddenly fighting a digital trade war on 3 fronts. Tech stocks collapse, Congress panics and forces a ceasefire. We are currently walking right along this edge. Scenario 3, the fracture. The global internet splits into blocks, a US-led digital zone, a sovereignty-first zone led by Canada, Europe, and Asia. Data stops flowing freely across borders. AI development forks into competing ecosystems. The integrated global tech economy that created trillions in wealth breaks apart. 6 months ago, this was unthinkable. Today, it is on the table. My read? We are in Scenario 2, sliding towards Scenario 3. And the only thing that stops the slide is Trump backing down. But backing down would require something Trump has never demonstrated: the ability to do it gracefully. The old internet is dying, the one where American companies could go anywhere, take anything, and answer to no one. That internet died in Ottawa. Carney did not just sign a law, he lit a signal fire. And every country that has ever felt bulldozed by Silicon Valley is watching that fire and thinking, maybe we can do this too. Trump wanted to bully Canada into submission. Instead, he created a movement. The question is not whether this changes the tech industry. It will. The question is whether it changes through negotiation or through destruction. What do you think? Is Carney protecting Canada's digital future? Or is he starting a war nobody can win? Drop your answer in the comments right now. I read every single one. And if you want to stay ahead of where this story goes next, subscribe to Global by Entry News and hit that notification bell, because history is not just moving fast right now. It is moving at the speed of data. Don't blink.